This is Professor Netzel, and this is a segment I will call Lost in Law School. Please cue the sci fi music. For some of us, when we start law school, we feel like we don't belong, that it was a mistake to admit me, that the admissions committee they just missed the number, they missed that I had a bad GPA or I had a bad LSAT. But I've been on admissions committees, and that's not true. There was a reason why you were admitted. So, a reason why the admissions committee had faith in you. Because if they don't feel that someone is honestly going to be able to make it through law school, under ABA rules, they can't let them in. They have to be able to justify to the ABA why they had faith in any particular admittee. So maybe you had a low GPA, maybe you had a low LSAT, maybe you had low both. But there was some reason why they felt that you would rise to this challenge. Maybe you've had a very responsible job in the interim. Maybe you had a very challenging undergrad major, biochemistry, neurobiology, something. There was something about you, your essay, or your background that convinced them that this is something that you would succeed at. I was okay. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I was a former ballroom dancer. I'd been out of law school, out of undergrad for 15 years. I was working 9 to 5. I had two children, 1.5 and 3.5, and the words significant other and job did not belong in the same sentence. So I knew that I was going to have to support these two kids, and working as a ballroom dancer for 60 hours a week, $250, wasn't going to be able to do it. I could do it for myself back in the 1980s, but I couldn't do it for my children. My first nickname as a kid was Mousy. I hate debate. I never liked that kind of type of thing. If you ask my dad which of his 5 kids was least likely to become a litigator, that would be me. However, there was something in some classes I'd taken that people have told me, you've got a good understanding of these legal concepts. This is something you really should consider. So I thought, well, give it a try. And besides, being a 40-year-old lawyer sounded a whole lot better than being a 40-year-old former ballroom dancer slash housewife. What made the difference for me? I really didn't feel like I belonged there, but what made a difference for me was that I had an amazing mentor, a law professor who has since become a friend and has been a friend for many, many years now. And the first thing he told me is, "What? You think you're not as good as these others? Listen in class. Your answers are at least as good or bad as theirs are. They don't know any more than you do. So, take it. You have as much reason to be here as anybody else, maybe more. A lot of it depends on your mindset. This thing, when we exercise our bodies, when we try to study dance or golf or anything else, we find that practice and doing it and challenging yourself, playing tennis against somebody better than you, makes you better. It's the same with this muscle up here. The more you challenge it, the stronger it gets. This analysis stuff, you've got to tie the rules to the facts. It seems very difficult at first and overwhelming. If you start with rule, add because, and add specific facts, then gradually it gets easier. So, you know, tackling this kind of stuff, one of my favorite movies was A League of Their Own. Dottie and Kit are two sisters. Dottie's the older one. Everything seems easy for her, this baseball stuff. Kit struggles. Um, and Dottie at once tells her, "Look, Kit, you can't hit high fastballs. Just don't go after them." And Kit says, "But I like the fast ones." And she refuses not to go after them. The end of the movie, apparently Dottie and Kit are now on different teams. Dottie tells her pitcher, give her high fastballs. She can't hit them and she can't stay away from them. So when it comes up on the third throw, Kit whacks it, and she ends up winning the series for her team because she's been practicing the high fastballs. It's the same with practicing this. It's the same with practicing up here. You need also to be able to accept failure. It's an opportunity to learn. We don't learn from our successes, we learn from our failures. So, failing at a hard assignment, hey, what can I learn from this? I was a perfectionist as a kid. If anybody criticized me, my internal demons were so bad that I would just break into tears. And I did this in law school the first time I failed at something, which was an appellate brief. It was our most important written assignment the first year, and I got a bad grade on it. And I'm stumbling around law school like this. And my mentor came up to me and said, "What the blank is wrong with you?" So let me see it. He came back to me an hour later and said, well, good thing you didn't turn it into me. I'd have given you an F. Well, it sounds harsh, but in reality, it was the best thing you could say to me because I was cried out. I finally learned not to take myself and my failures so seriously. I started laughing. It was the best thing anybody could have said to me. And he said, look, he said, here's a grammar book, here's a punctuation book, work on them and come back to me. So at that point, I started writing. I realized writing was not my forte, and I started writing 4 times as much as my classmates. I worked really, really, really hard at it, and I learned. I really learned. I also learned something else, that I'm dyslexic. I'm mildly dyslexic, and because I had severe asthma, I overcame it as a small child. But as a dyslexic, we often compensate in other ways. It has nothing to do with intelligence, but you learn a bit differently. I read backwards. So often we can think on our feet better than the next person. So half of the grade in this course was the appellate proof, which I'd already bombed on. The other half was oral argument. And like Kit, I nailed it. So turn your disadvantages into advantages. Think of it as a challenge. You learn about yourself, you learn what your strengths are, you learn what your weaknesses are from your failures, and now it's an opportunity to build on yourself. Because I was mousy, I put myself in situations where I'd have to talk, and I became one of those obnoxious people in class who talk. So don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself in class. I mean, goodness knows, on the dance floor, I fell on my face. I lost costumes in public. I mean, nobody's life depends on it. In school, nothing's going to hurt other than maybe your ego for a few minutes, and you'll learn so much more from it. You'll learn so much more from it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, especially in class. Your professor is there to help, not to hurt you. Okay. So another thing that helps with anxiety is practice. Practice under timed pressure. My daughter really faced test anxiety, and it took her 3 shots at the MCAT, but she eventually got into medical school. And there she is, absolutely terrified because she was never good at math, and now she's taking these tests, and she's absolutely positive she's going to fail. So she goes into the tutorial and says, I need some tutoring because I'm going to fail. Well, what have you failed so far? Nothing. Well, we can't help you because everybody in medical school is type A. If we help you, then we're going to have to help everybody else in class. So what she got used to were tests every week. And after a semester of tests every week, a single test wasn't quite as frightening anymore. So test yourself. Do some of the hypothets professors provide for you under time conditions yourself until it becomes something that you're not afraid of. Group assignments also help. Group assessments, group study groups is what helped me. I was put in a group with 3 other people, and I found that the more I had to explain these concepts to other people, or we were explaining it back and forth and exploring hypothets, the stronger this got again. So I hope this helped a little bit. It's probably longer than I intended at about 10 minutes. But until next time, take care. Bye.